Readers of Reddit. r/AskReddit. What's a really awkward situation that everyone can relate with? When you start to tell a story in a group but in middle of sentence realize that no one is actually listening, and ever so slowly you get quiet and hope no one took notice. When you've had multiple interactions with someone but you can't remember their name, but it's gone too far to admit you've forgotten it, so you just have to call them love or mate forever. I have a trick for this. Start being more loving to them, eventually getting into relationship. As this moves further, propose and they'll say yes, and then when you're getting married, wait till the pastor turns and says, "And will you person's name marry your name?" And boom, you now know their name. I once got set up on a blind date by a friend. The guy was her brother. I unfortunately didn't catch his name, though. So when he shows up to pick me up, I'm like, "You must be Elaine's brother." I'm Mama Cat 13, hoping he'd say his name. He didn't. We dated a few weeks before I saw a bottle for his asthma meds in his car and got his name from that. Standing the while two people talk about something you don't know about. Even worse when you're wanting to leave the conversation but feel like you need to have an excuse to leave. I have to poop and giggle. Let them figure out which is more awkward. I think you misunderstood the term for shit and giggles. When you try to contribute to a conversation and someone cuts you off multiple times, and you patiently wait for your turn to speak, even though it already was, but by the time the air is clear, the subject has already changed and what you were going to say is now irrelevant. I used to be a habitual cutter-offer when I was younger. I wasn't trying to be rude. I was just excited for what I had to say. I've reformed that behavior now, but if I notice this happening to someone else, I'll make sure to call attention to the person trying to talk. "What was that, John?" or something along those lines to make sure everyone is heard. And he sat there, so deflated, with his sentence incomplete dash. For he'd falteringly waited for his moment, bittersweet. He was beaten. He was broken. He had shared his inner mind dash. When the interruption spoken left him silently behind. But he couldn't just forget it. And he'd never let it go. He would make them all regret it. He will. Please continue, bro. Saying hello or how are you to somebody and getting 100% ignored. Worse when someone else you know is there too and notices you getting ignored. That's when I just say good talk. Helps me feel like I save face just a bit. When you're having a conversation with someone and you don't hear what they say, so you ask them to repeat and they do. But you still don't hear it and ask them to repeat again and they do. And you still don't know what they said. Do you ask them to repeat again, and maybe still not hear it? Pretend you heard it and nod your head and hope it's an appropriate response? Stab yourself in the eye with a pen to create a diversion and change the subject? Just laugh, say yeah and hope they didn't just tell you their dad just died. Literally the worst thing that can ever happen to a human being. No, the worst is when they get angry at you for not hearing it. Or not understanding it, because they speak the worst English you have heard in your life, but they think they're good at it. And the thing they said was a pun, and the point of the pun is lost because bread and breath really doesn't sound the same enough for it to be funny ... So you just go huh? For the second time, and then they roll their eyes and leave, thinking you're the stupid one. When you're walking past a coworker and you've already said hello earlier, everyone's making that weird flat smile. That walk down a long hallway toward each other where you've clearly seen the other person, but they're too far away to say something, so you do the awkward look around until you get close enough to say hey and keep walking. You say bye to them and then head to walk into the same direction, glance at each other and give an awkward smile. The longest walk. That's when you pull out the I forgot something or intentionally go in the wrong direction to save yourself a tremendous amount of discomfort. When you're finishing up at the checkout and the cashier puts the notes on top of the receipt and then coins on top of that. Then the next person steps up and you're fumbling, trying to disassemble the stack in your hand, gather your shopping, say thanks and move away at the same time. In the UK it's extra sucky because you bag your groceries yourself. If you aren't quick enough you have to do all of what you mentioned as well as quickly finish the packing while everyone stares at you waiting for you to hurry. Being at a friend's house as a kid and the friend's mother starts yelling at your friend. Being at a friend's house as a kid and the friend's father walks in only wearing underwear. The opposite as well. Having a friend over and your parents do this. Or worse, your parents try involve your friend in the argument asking them if they would do that. Would their parents put up with it? So ducked up. That awkward moment where you and somebody else try to let each other speak but you both try speak at the same time and just keep failing. That would be a Skype Teams moment. It's happened to us countless times. Especially since we're all now working from home. Sorry, go ahead. Silence. When you think someone waves at you so you wave back, but they were waving at someone behind you. Not long ago at church we were asked to turn and greet people. I turned around and the guy said hi to me and stuck his hand out to shake. I went for it and realized he was talking to the woman beside me. She and I both ended up with a hand in his hand at the same time trying to shake it. They both looked at me and I quickly turned around and pretended it didn't happen, which made it more awkward. And then rest of the service I couldn't stop laughing about it. This is standard for me. When you walk out of the store empty-handed, feeling like you've just stole something. It's worse if you make eye contact with the cashier. Or worse, the security guy. And you went in the store with a bag from another one, you know it and I know it. You should go to jail. Walking through a doorway only to catch your clothes on the handle and have it slingshot you backwards. Happens only when you're angry. Ever drag your shoe across a tile floor and have it make a loud, wet, fart sound, so everyone in the room looks at you? Then you insist it was your shoe and try to make the sound again, but nothing happens? Yeah, that. And leather couches. When you say a funny joke but all you get is silence. I did this on a Zoom staff meeting yesterday. It was worse online, somehow. Now you're that guy in the office. Being called on to answer a question you really have no idea how to answer. I used to just say I don't know FML. Can't speak for you, but whenever I said I don't know my teachers would go on a rant and say something like why don't you know? You should know, or the old classic at least try. And then when I try, I say something stupid and everyone starts laughing and the teacher says that's not right. God bless, I'm not in school anymore. I do not understand teachers who do that. If the kid says they don't know, they either don't know or they're ducking terrified or both. Leave them alone. My brother is a high school teacher and one thing he does that I absolutely love is takes note early on in the semester of which students are shy, anxious or lack confidence in their abilities, and then pays attention to what aspects of the subject those students are good at so that every now and then he can call on one of those students to answer a question he knows they can answer confidently. He says one of the best feelings is when he calls on one of those students who normally looks terrified and they perk up and give a confident answer. When you're walking and almost trip for no reason and look back at the invisible stick that you tripped on. When you go for a hug but the other person goes for a handshake, so you start with a handshake but do a weird hug at the same time with your hands in each other's crotches. I just skip all that and go right for the crotch. That awkward moment when you're trying to grab someone's crotch and they shake your hand. Watching a sex scene with your parents. Visited my aunt and uncle 7 years ago and we were hanging out watching TV. My uncle clicks through channels and stops on Harold and Kumar escape from Guantanamo Bay. Within minutes it's the shaved tushy party scene. My aunt and uncle sit there in silence watching, not saying anything until the scene is over while I sweat bullets. If you put an acorn between my butt cheeks I could have cracked it. A few months ago I visit again. Uncle flips through channels. It's Starship Troopers. Within minutes it's a sex scene and the boobies are out. I'm not visiting anymore. When you are video chatting, start talking and because of the delay you interrupt each other all the time. Stop talking, start again, interrupt the other one, stop talking. Never-ending story. Someone showing everyone in the group something on their phone and waiting until it is your turn. Even worse if it never makes it to you and you have to pretend you're not secretly dying to know what it is.